These here are the 1998 to 99 Orion Vs, the third Orion Vs, and the last Orion Vs for New York City Transit. Now, the fleet numbers that these buses range from are 6000 to 6349, with 6000 to 6002 being 1998 models, and 6003 to 6349 being 1999 models. So, without further ado, we're gonna hit the list of depots that received New York City Transit's last fleet of Orion Vs. So let's begin. So 6000 to 6065 were delivered to Mother Clara Hale Depot, which was closed for rehabilitation in 2008 and reopened in 2015, replacing 126th Street Depot. 6066 to 6119 were delivered to Amsterdam Depot, which was closed in 2003 and was temporarily reopened in 2007, while Mother Clara Hale Depot was closed for rehabilitation. Then it got canned in 2010 due to budget cuts. 6120 to 6141 were delivered to Casey Stengel Depot. 6142 to 6255 were delivered to Castleton Depot. And last but not least, 6256 to 6349 were delivered to Yukon Depot. In later years, many of these units have been scattered around between the Bronx, Queens, Manhattan, and Staten Island, and in 2009, a good number of these buses were transferred to Eastchester Depot and MTA Bus, and in the summer of 2013, 20 Orion Vs were transferred from Yukon Depot to Grand Avenue Depot as an exchange for some Orion 7 Next Gens, to also curb the mileage of the units that spent most of their lives in Staten Island. And the bus fans, transit fans were like,
Hallelujah! Holy shit! Oh my God!
I mean, the Orion 5 Diesel has made a comeback to Brooklyn. Now that's something that I have not seen since the mid-90s. Anyways, so these Orion 5s were a bit different than their older sisters, but unlike the 1994 to 96 Orion 5s, these were delivered with roof exhaust and feature newer and brighter destination signs, and they also feature LED lights. However, they were basically the same. Now moving on to the powertrain. So these Orion 5s signify the use of the Detroit Diesel Series 50 engine with the Allison B400R transmission. Together, they sound like this. So, as for these Orion 5s, they were okay. They were a decent fleet. Even though I barely had a chance to even ride on those buses, but I do remember seeing them passing by. Aside from all that, I mainly rode on the Orion Vs from the former Westchester County B line and the Orion Vs from MTA bus. Before we move on with this review, here are some thoughts and opinions about these buses by my good friend Cedric, aka Vunerable Toyota. Take it away, Cedric.
Hello, New City Transit fans, and this is Vunerable Toyota contributing to the 1998 through 1999 Orion V review. These Orion Vs were the good series, but not well liked as many had thought. Since they were brought here in 1999, these buses were the best to be the first with being smart with features like LED taillights. Plus, they were the first to be coupled with the roof exhaust that defies the strength power of a Series 50 powered Orion V. One time I rode this was in late summer of 2013. I was riding a 1999 Orion V on the B47 on my way home from Kings Plaza. Riding that bus felt as if I was riding a speedy school bus across the Verrazano Bridge. Except the worst part, I had hated this bus's design even with the other series of Orion Vs in all generations. But since 2018, my mind changed after they were retired, making me regret hating them compared to the newer buses out there. In regards to my point of view, these buses were known to have structural issues that caused these to last 12 years, but exceeded their lifespan until 2016. I miss these buses mainly by their acceleration. And as I said, these are not as well liked by not only by their structural status, but the engine combination that makes these seem like the EGR version of this is retrofitted into them. On the other hand, they couldn't be as worse as the 1993 Orion Vs that used to be powered with the C392 engine. So overall, I do like these buses. And so thank you. So that was actually the end of my contribution. Thank you guys for watching, and then bringing you back to the owner of this Orion V review.
Thank you, Cedric, for the contribution. Now back to where we left off. So, during their time with New York City Transit, these Orion Vs were doing just fine, but as soon as everything turned out to be okay, many of these buses started to show signs of early rusting, corrosion, and structural problems, and this was mainly because their production was rushed and they weren't built early. And because of this, many of these units were retired, scrapped, and they have been replaced by the 2014 to 2015 New Flyer Excelsior XD40s and the 2015 to 2016 Novabus LFSs. At first, I did not even know that this happened, but after watching the 1998 to 99 Orion V review by Khalil C. Johnson, I started to realize now that the buses that I grew up with in Queens have all been retired in 2016. And this broke my heart because these Orion Vs have been known as the second symbol of New York City Transit, along with the RTSs, which they have been here for 38 years, and the Orion Vs have only been here 23 years. And to be honest, if they were built thoroughly, they would have lasted between 2018 and 2021. But, oh well, that's just how things work. Although it's really sad to say that these Orion Vs have all been retired, but luckily, 6326 has been the only unit to ever be lucky enough to be preserved in the museum fleet. So, as for these iconic Orion Vs, these buses are gone, but most certainly will not be forgotten, and will always be remembered as New York City Transit's best and most legendary fleet of Orion Vs. So with that being said, this is Sonic 57053, wishing you guys to stay safe, stay healthy, and wishing you guys a happy holidays, and thanking every single one of you guys for watching.